and how this has gone so far. And I'm going to pick it up from here. So tonight is all about cloud sharing and email. So how do we, what is the cloud? And how do we work in the cloud to get our work done, whether it's office work or personal work? What's kind of the latest and greatest in technology that allows us to do that work? Again, we're M&A. We're brought to you tonight in partnership with Eastern Plains Economic Development. We're glad to be here, whether you're watching this live, I've got a couple folks, or if you're watching a recording down the road, we're here as resources. So please reach out to us if you have questions following this presentation or anything that we're doing. Myself, I introduced myself. My colleague Shelby's here. She's monitoring the chat and will be voicing in and helping us do some examples of how to do some cloud document sharing later on this hour. We'll try to be efficient with time. I know, Verna, you said you've got to probably leave a little bit early. I don't think we have an hour's worth of content here, so it's not just going to be me talking for an hour. We've got time at the end for questions or time for you to get to church. So we'll try to be expedient with your time.
Thank you.
Yep. Here's a schedule. As you saw, this is a little bit of a change. So I wanted to note that. You probably have emails that note that this change happened. This Monday was supposed to be email outreach, design, and all of that information. That got pushed to next Wednesday, March 9th. So actually, the fourth session here, the cloud, is being moved up. It's going to be third. It's right now. And we're going to be talking about email a week from today at the same time. So our agenda for tonight, we're going to do just some quick introductions. I have a couple questions for you all to gauge where you are and what you hope to accomplish from tonight. We're going to cover cloud basics. We're going to do some really quick an overview of two of the biggest games in town when it comes to cloud computing. Go through some best practices for cybersecurity. How do you keep your stuff safe when it's in the cloud? And then finish with some considerations around email addresses and email accounts for an organization. What's considered a best practice of that? So I want to start, if you wouldn't mind, and I know Shelby probably knows everyone in the room, but if you wouldn't mind chatting in your name and the organization you're representing for me. And then what's your experience with cloud-based work applications? And if you don't know what that is, that's fine. That tells us what we need to know. And what are you hoping to learn tonight? If we could leave you with one thing, what is it? So, we're small enough here. I don't think we need to chat. If you want to just speak that in, I would really appreciate it, both from Kristen and from Berna, and then from the EPEDC staff too.
Well, I'm Verna Carpenter, and I'm representing Frontier Gateway Museum. I know nothing about cloud.
All right.
So whatever you can teach tonight, I'll learn, I'm sure. And that's my goal.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm Alyssa Miller, and I'm with EPDC. And I just know that when something disappears, it goes to the cloud.
Okay, cool.
I don't know much. I'm really terrible with computer stuff.
Perfect. Thank you. How about you, Kristen?
I'm Kristen Austin. I do some freelance computer work in Ranch north of Glendive.
Great.
And I use cloud stuff all the time. I build websites and I use Google Drive and I use OneDrive, and I never feel like I've got it all organized and efficient. And in particular, I want to get myself onto G Suite so I can use a domain email that isn't gmail.com. And and it just never wants to work right.
Gotcha.
And I get mad and quit.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Well, Kristen, we may not get to how to organize data in the cloud. That may be towards the end, but maybe if we have some time towards the last portion of this, if you've got specific questions or specific conversation, we can have that. How about Beth and Dara?
I have a better basic foundation. I'll probably be able to figure it out. So
great.
Starting me at the beginning is good.
Okay, thank you. How about Dara and Beth? Anything to add?
I'm pretty familiar with the cloud stuff, as long as we're talking like Google Android side things and not like Apple cloud things, because that's nope.
We're going to stay away from that tonight.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my cloud knowledge is fairly limited, and I just like when I do use it, I hope that it works, but I have no idea where it goes, how it goes.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah,
Great.
we've done that. We've tried a little bit of cloud usage, but then they end up wanting us to pay more and more fees for like storage, and then I just kind of get nervous and
yeah,
I'm not confident enough in my knowledge of it to like move on to the paid part. So
yeah. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for that. We will do our best. We're going to start at the very beginning and go from there, see how far we can get in the time we have allotted. So first of all, what is the cloud? I want us to think about where data is stored, where the thing is stored. The file, the media file, the movie, the whatever it is, it lives somewhere. And it used to be, you know, way back when, we used to put those things on little floppy disks, right? Which is still our save icon. Now kids these days, you know, I can't believe I said that. You know, when you save something, it's still a floppy disk, but kids have no reference for what a floppy disk actually is anymore. It's now just a save icon. So, but way back when computers started, you put files and you would put them on your computer. And if your computer had a hard drive, it was stored there, or you put it onto a file or a floppy disk of some kind. And then those became CDs, and then those became USB drives. And then if you wanted to do work in your office with someone else who was also in the office, and you wanted to be able to share a document back and forth without emailing it, you had to save it onto a server, which was a big floppy disk, a big storage system that lived in your office, and any computer that was connected to that server could access the files that were there. But it's all about storage. It's all about where the thing lives. The cloud is nothing more than an external server, actually many servers that live in who knows where. And the documents that we save go and get saved there in a server, in some server bank in Alaska or whatever it might be. But as long as we're connected to the internet, we can access those documents, and we can control who else can access those documents from anywhere. So no longer do we have to worry about taking our laptop with us to have the document. No longer do we have to worry about having it on a USB drive or a CD or an old floppy disk. If it lives in the cloud, which we're going to talk about a little bit more about how to get it there and what are some of the programs that allow that. If it's there, we can get it from anywhere, which I don't need to tell you that there's tremendous benefit to that. We're going to go through some of those benefits, but that in a nutshell, that's all it is. So there's not some big fluffy thing in the sky where the document goes. It's rather just, where is this document being stored? Where is it being saved, or this file or this movie or whatever it is? So once it's there, once it's in the cloud, regardless of what it is, I mean, it could be a movie, it could be a music file, it could be a master spreadsheet, your budget, you know, a PowerPoint presentation, whatever it might be. Once it's saved there, we can access it from our phones, from our laptops, whether we're at our house or on the road. As long as we have access to the internet, we can get access to that, as long as we have the programs on the device that can open that file, open that thing. This has replaced, you know, so we used to think about software as the thing we used to go into the computer store or Staples or whatever it might be, and we would buy the box that said Microsoft Office 2003. We'd have the box and it'd have the CD in it, and we'd put it on our computer and we'd download all the Office programs onto our computer. And then 2004 would come, and guess what? We'd have to go buy Office 2004, and then 2005, right? We'd pay $100 for this suite of programs to have it for X amount of time, and it would work for as long as we wanted it to work, but we'd have to update it, go buy more later. All of that type of software purchasing is being replaced by what we call now software as a service, SaaS, software as a service, where you are buying a monthly subscription for access to a cloud-based application that allows you to use that service as long as you're paying your subscription. And frankly, those subscription costs we get into in a little bit are a whole lot cheaper than it used to be to have to go buy your Office product and your Adobe product and your whatever else product that you bought. Now you're paying us a low monthly fee or an annual fee for access to that program. As long as you have the internet, you can download those programs on your computer, but you have access to it from anywhere, anytime. So software as a service and there are thousands, if not millions, of software as a service vendors out there that are selling you this, that, and the other, all sorts of different things. Cloud benefits. So they're probably pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to go through these. Cloud benefits. The big one is collaboration. If I have something saved in the cloud, that means that anyone that you designate can have access to it at the exact same time. We're going to do an example later in this hour where Shelby and I are working in a Word doc together. I can see exactly where she is. I can see what she's typing. She can see what I'm typing. We're working collaboratively in the moment. Even though she's just across this wall from me, she could be in Hong Kong or London or Glendive or Ritchie and working in the exact same document at the exact same time as me, because this document is saved. It lives in a location where we both have access to it. Mobility, same thing. We can access files from anywhere. We're no longer tied to what is physically on our computer. We're no longer tied to the USB drive that we may have. As long as we have access to the internet, we can access that file from anywhere, and it's sort of automatically saved for us. It could be on your phone, it could be on your laptop, it could be on your friend's computer or whoever it might be. Another great benefit about software as a service now is that your software is always updated. No longer do you have to worry about going and getting the new box that has the new Office product for the new year with new features. The vendors will update this automatically for you. You're probably always getting Windows updates or Office updates where it's automatically updating your software. As long as you're paying the subscription, you have the latest and greatest features, and you have the latest and greatest security, which we're going to get into at the end. So no longer worrying about having to go and get new, or worried about whether you're out of date or getting something new. You're always updated. It's much cheaper, actually, not just because the software itself is cheaper, but no longer do we have to have servers to store programs or to store files or to store data. It's in the cloud. It's built into the cost of the subscription. So for one low fee and a computer that doesn't have to have much in the way of hard drive space anymore, because nothing's really saved on it, not much is saved on it. It's saved in the cloud. So I don't have to worry about space as much. So there's much less cost. And then security. And this is one thing that seems a little counterintuitive. Folks often say, well, it's in the cloud, meaning anyone can access it, meaning anybody can access it. And that seems unsafe. The reality is there's a whole bunch of technology that is way beyond my pay grade that's built into cloud-based security. And the biggest companies in the world and the smartest tech minds in the world devote a ton of time and attention and resources to ensuring that your data is safe and it's secure. We're going to go through some best practices to ensure that for your organization. But just know, if I'm keeping my files on a Microsoft cloud, I have Microsoft security. So I have enterprise level, world-class security protecting my documents, which is a lot better than I could do myself, or the Joe, the IT guy that we pay to do our security for us could do. We have latest and greatest and best practice as far as security, and it's constantly updated. And lastly, I mentioned this before, capacity. No longer are we constrained by whatever server we can afford to store our data on. We get as much capacity as we want, and frankly, as we can pay for. But as you'll see, the subscription packages that come from cloud-based providers come with a whole lot of data with them for free or for very little. And we don't have to worry about anymore about having to add more or to wonder, do we have enough space to take on these new files, these new employees, or this new program? We have it. Shelby, will you stop me if there's a question in the chat that I need to answer? Thank you. So we're going to talk about two cloud-based leaders, Google and Microsoft. And that seems like a much oversimplistic answer, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of vendors out there that do some sort of cloud-based service, whether it's data or all the things that you could do on your computer. There's somebody that has a program that will do that as software as a service. We're giving you kind of the two gorillas in the industry who have built, this whole talk was about document storage. These do document storage and so much more. What this is about is getting into an operating environment for your work, where all of the programs are kind of laid out and they're all integrated with one another. They all talk to one another and they allow you to do your work in a pretty seamless way. These are the two best options for you. And they will do about anything that you need regarding just day-to-day work for your organization. Obviously, there's probably some things you need to add on, but for the most part, this is going to cover the vast majority of the work that you need to do. So this is just a quick list of some of the programs that both Google and Microsoft offer through their products. Google's product is called Workspace. Microsoft product is called 365. Microsoft used to be called Office. We all know the Office suite, like we're used to that. And then it became Office 365, and then they just dropped the Office. Now it's just Microsoft 365. So word processing, you open a Word doc and you start typing out a letter or a resume or whatever it might be. Microsoft has Word, Google Workspace has Docs. They function the exact same way, they do the exact same thing, they just have different names. For data analysis, Microsoft has Excel, Google Workspace has Sheets. They function the exact same way, they look very similar to one another. You can open up an Excel document in Sheets and vice versa. Presentations, so what we're looking at right now is done in PowerPoint in Microsoft. Google has Slides. For chatting, for sending messages back and forth to your colleagues or those that are other users within your environment, probably within your company. Microsoft has Teams, Google has Chat. You can make audio and video calls. We're on a Zoom call right now. Google and Microsoft have their version of Zoom. Microsoft is called Teams, it's the same program. And Google Workspace is called Meet. So you can set up a Zoom call. You can schedule a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting. We need to not call it a Zoom call. It's a Meet call or a Teams call, depending on the environment. For email, Google has Gmail. Microsoft has Outlook. They both have calendars. They both have, the big one that we'll talk about in just a moment is cloud storage. So to be able to save documents into the cloud, Microsoft has a product called OneDrive or SharePoint. OneDrive is for you as a person. You have your own OneDrive account where you can save your documents into the cloud for anyone to use and view and collaborate on. SharePoint has a little bit more functionality. It's built for organizations. So you can set up a SharePoint site that has some additional functionality, but and some additional security. We're not going to dive into SharePoint. We're going to talk about OneDrive probably a little bit more in depth. They function the exact same way. It's about the storage system. It's the architecture for where documents, files get stored. And Google has Google Drive, which is where cloud-based documents or files are shared. In addition to that, they have additional applications that do a number of different things. You can build websites, you can build forms and surveys. Keep is for, I don't remember what Keep is for. Oh, notes, it's just for keeping notes, quick notes for you and your organization. Microsoft has Forms for building surveys, Planner for doing project management, Publisher for doing more in-depth word processing, for making brochures and newsletters, things like that. In other words, the goal of Google and Microsoft is create an environment where you can do anything you want to do and you don't have to leave it. The goal is for them is to create this space where you're paying for a service, and you're doing all your work there, and come heck or high water, you're not going to leave that environment to do anything else because they want to keep you. They want to keep you and build their programs to fit you. And actually, you'll see as we do a quick example, they make their products mirror each other. They look very close to one another, Google and Microsoft and Slack and Facebook, all that, like there's so much similarity between the products. They're just big copycats of one another. So you want to create them. They want you to be in their environment. You decide we're Google people here, and others say we're Microsoft people here. It's kind of like Apple and Android, right? So this is a quick visualization, and we're going to do an example to show this, but you can start a Word document. Let's say you want to type up a grant report and share it with the rest of the staff before it gets submitted. Dara creates the report. She opens up a Word doc or a Google doc, starts typing, creates the report she wants, and she decides she wants to save it with the rest of her team. She shares it, or she saves it, not onto her computer, she saves it into her OneDrive account. Which is done the exact same way. You go to Control Save, but instead of saving in a little folder for her computer, she saves it into another icon that says your OneDrive account. From there, she can give a link out to anyone she wants to give it out to, or the location of where it is within her OneDrive account. And then anyone who has access to that link can open up the document, and in real time, as she's making edits to it, can make those edits and see those edits being done. So now you're collaborating one-on-one with one another. This is a great way to share documents, both for collaboration and for review. If you want to send out a board report, you can email it, which is one way to do it, but that's static. That email attachment is what it is when you send it. You may have come back in a week later and make some edits, but that didn't go out because the attachment that went out was a week ago. Sending them a link to the board packet in OneDrive, they open that and it's in real time. So whatever the latest and greatest changes were that you made, they can see those and they can make their own edits if they want, or provide feedback or comments on something they have comments on. And everyone can be in at the same time and see who's doing what. So it's protected in that regard. You can see what changes are made and who made them. And it also provides that collaboration. So we're going to do a quick little case study here and show you how this gets done, both in Microsoft and in Google, and show you a little bit about our environment. So I'm going to switch my, I'm going to actually set my screen up first. Switch my share. So you're seeing now a split screen between Word, a Word document on the left side, and then Microsoft Teams as a program opened on the right side. So I want to show you how you would share a document. I want to share a document with Shelby. She's right across the wall, but we're working on a document together and we want to be able to collaborate on it in real time. So I can just start typing. This is my testing document for EPEDC session 3. Once I have it to a point where I want to share this, I'm going to save it, save as, and now immediately my option, so I could save it into just on my computer like I usually do, but one of the options here says OneDrive for Montana Nonprofit Association. This is our OneDrive account for us as an organization. And if I can just save it right in here and click save. And a couple things happened at the top. One, this auto save turned on so that any change I make from here on out is automatically going to be saved. I don't have to worry about hitting Control S and saving it periodically. I don't have to worry if I close this that I'm going to lose the information that I did save. It's automatically saved, but I can always revert back to different versions of it if I want to undo something that I've done. Also up here, there's this little share button where if I click this now, I can either send this as an attachment, which we're all used to doing. I can send a link to open this to anyone within or without my organization. Or what we like to do here is I'm going to get a link that's specific to this one document. I'm going to copy this link right here. Then I'm going to come over into Teams, and I have a little chat channel within Teams set up between Shelby and I. You see them at the bottom of it here. And from here, if I just paste that link that I just copied and click that, I just sent this to Shelby within Teams. Shelby can open that link, click on that link, and should work here in a second. There, Shelby Regala is here. So I can see her little icon up here at the top. She's typing right as I'm working, right in this document. There you go. We're seeing it right in real time. So she can make comments. I can make comments. I can see where she is. We can save this together and close out, and we can, all of our progress is right here. So that's how we can see these documents together. Also, if I come back to this chat channel now and go up here to files, I guess it will work in time. That document that I just attached, that I just posted into this chat channel, will eventually, after it catches up, will be listed here as a document. So if we wanted to come back in 2 weeks and re-review this document, we could either view it, open it up on our computer, but we can also find it from here, from within Teams. So you can set up a channel. You can have 6 people in this chat channel communicating with one another and viewing this document. Anyone who is a part of that chat channel will have received the link and can open it. So it functions just like what you use, like a group chat on your phone or Facebook Messenger, whatever it is. Functions the exact same way. You can also set up sub channels for different bits of work. So if you want to have one for a certain project, you can add folks to that channel. And then if you want to add updates for that project or anything, they can see that there, see those updates and communicate. But you can kind of segregate who's part of what communication, so that if I don't want to bug Shelby with an issue because I need to work with Liz, she's not part of a certain chat channel, so she's not seeing that information or seeing the documents we're sharing together. And she's not bugged by that. She's got her work to do, and I don't need to bug her with this because she's not a stakeholder in that work. So you can set up all kinds of different teams and chat channels and all kinds of documents, and that's how you share them back and forth. I'm going to hop over now, get rid of this, and I'm going to show you Google. So that's Microsoft. Let's look at Google. I have Google Docs open in a browser. So I don't have, you'll also notice too, I had the Microsoft Word and Teams open as programs on my computer, on my desktop, just like you would on your home computer, where you go and you download an Office product onto your computer, you click the icon, you open the program, you're there. I was in Word and Teams in that exact same way. So it looks and functions just like a desktop program. Right now within Google, you'll notice that I'm within an internet browser. So I've gone to Google Docs or docs.google.com, and I'm viewing my Google Docs from an internet browser, which could be Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or any of our Google browsers that we use to surf the internet, be on the internet. I'm in that, I'm logged in under my account. From here, if I open up a new document, so I'm in a blank document here, and I'm, I guess, again, just gonna say test document. And you'll notice some similarities. There's the automatic save button at the top, and in the top right, there's a share button, just like with Microsoft. From here, if I click share, it's going to say you want to save this first, right? Yep, let's save it. Again, just like Microsoft, I can add people manually, or I can copy a link. I'm going to change this so that anyone who has the link can view it. I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to go over to Google Chat. Now I'm not in Microsoft Teams anymore. I'm in Google Chat. I have Shelby pulled up, and I can just send her this link. And if I go back here, I can see, this is what Google does, which kind of bugs me. It doesn't actually say Shelby Regales here. It says this anonymous person is here, just because I didn't send it specifically to her. I just sent the link out into the universe. So it doesn't say that Shelby's here, but now Shelby can come in here and she can make all the changes just like in Microsoft. So Shelby, go ahead if you can and type something in.
I just requested edit access.
Edit. Here we go. Try that. So there was a quick protection. So Google's default is that anyone who has the link can view the document, but they can't actually edit anything, which protects you if you don't want people to edit. If you wanted to send them an update and then give you feedback on what edits you want them to make, but you don't want them actually changing the work you've done, that's the default. But you can also change the setting like I just did, where you can give edit access to anyone who has that link. So once I'm back, so we just worked in a test document. Any documents that you've worked in or you own or that you've created are going to be saved here in Google Docs. So I could go and find anything that we've done, send it out to whoever I want, update and work in whatever I want. But this is the cloud. It's saved in Google Drive as a Google Doc. In Microsoft, it's saved in OneDrive as a Word doc, and we're using Chat and Teams to share back and forth with one another the documents that we're working in.
Adam, I have a question. You might be coming back to Teams in a bit, but and I have this question because we also have this question. So Kristen asked, do people in a channel have to be in your organization? And I know it works best if they are. There are some settings we've tried to expand it, but would love your input on that.
Yeah, in theory, so theoretically, no. Theoretically, you can have any person who has it within a Microsoft Teams channel. Now, they have to have a Microsoft account, but it could be a free account, paid account, personal account, business account, whatever it might be. So they have to be within the Microsoft environment, operating environment, right? But theoretically, no, anyone can be part of a Teams channel or a Teams chat. Reality is that Microsoft is a little bit finicky with their security settings. And OneDrive works really well to share with anybody and everybody. Working in SharePoint and working in Teams and trying to get access to folks who aren't within your organization, A, or that have a Microsoft account, B, theoretically works, but it's a little clunky. And oftentimes run into issues where people will say, well, I can't access that, or I can't see that because they don't have the right permissions. And there's some security setting on the back end that we have turned on or off. But it gets a little wonky and a little tech oriented. So I think when it comes to sharing documents with folks who are outside your organization, or share and be able to communicate and chat with one another with folks that are outside your organization, Google works better from that perspective. Most of it's web-based, browser-based, and they have much less security settings on that. Microsoft is a little more corporate in that regard, a little more locked down, which can be a good thing. If that's what you need. If you're just, for us who typically just work within our organization with us as employees, works fantastically. But we have run into some issues where we're trying to share documents out or have Teams channels and Teams chats with folks that aren't within our organization. Theoretically, it's supposed to work. And I think they're working on it, but it can get a little clunky. All right. We're going to keep moving on. I mentioned this briefly. You can open up any of the programs that we just talked about for Workspace or for 365 as both desktop programs. Like I just mentioned, you can open up a program, click the icon on your computer, open up Word, and it's there. Or go to office.com, log in, and open it in a browser. Same for Google. You can have things that are offline, that's desktop programs, and you can open things up in a browser. So just know that both are possible. There's a little bit of different functionality with both. I think the desktop version it has all the features and bells and whistles. Browser sometimes might be a little bit more limited. I think Shelby and I go back and forth on this because she usually opens things in a browser. I almost always open things as a desktop program. So it's just a matter of personal preference, but just know that both are possible. And that's where, if you're not on your home computer or your laptop, if you're at a library or on your visiting family and you're on their computer, they don't have to have all the programs on their computer for you to do your work. You just have to open up an internet browser, log into your account, and everything is there at your fingertips. All right. The bottom line on both Google Workspace and Microsoft when it comes to cost and features. If you're coming here from a nonprofit, Google and Microsoft will give you their products, the best version of their products for free, period. So for Google Workspace, you pay $0 per user per month for some basic functionality. It's probably enough functionality for the vast majority of the work that you need to do. It's all of the programs. You also get a professional email address. So part of this is your email, whether it's Gmail or Outlook. And this will allow you to have not just ajesperson@gmail.com, but ajesperson@mtnonprofit.org. I can add that domain that matches my organization by being part of Google Workspace as an organization, as a nonprofit. You can host video meetings of up to 100 people. You get 30 gigabytes of data storage per user that they can use to share their documents. That's a lot. Some of you may need a little bit more, but that's probably plenty for most of what you need to get done. You have security and management controls at your fingertips and the support of Google. If you need to add some additional storage, 2 terabytes of storage per user, or additional video conferencing capability, like recording or more people, you're going to pay $3 per user per month. And then that goes up. You can see that there's more storage, more video participation, some enhanced security. You're paying $5 per user per month. The vast majority of what you need to get done is probably going to be for free. For Microsoft now, Microsoft will give you 10 free premium level licenses, which is all the bells and whistles, everything you need, and then some, up to 10 free licenses for your organization if you're a nonprofit. Beyond that, beyond the 10 free, you can pay $3 per user per month to be a standard user, which gives you, again, about everything you need, except for some enhanced security things, or $5 per user per month for additional premium users, which is everything. In addition to that, you can have up to 300 free users, in addition to the 10 premium license, licenses. You can have up to 300 basic licenses for your organization, which just allows for web access, so the browser access to certain programs. You don't get to download the programs onto your computer and use that the desktop version of those. It's just the web-based version, but up to 300 for free. So this is a great use for. The best thing about that is that it brings those users into your environment and within your account. So if you have issues with access, if you create a basic profile, a basic account for that person that you're struggling to get access to for Teams or for documents or whatever it might be, give them a free account, and then they're at least in your environment and they can view the documents. Security becomes much easier to manage. So this is a great use for like a board member who doesn't need to be working in documents that you're working on, or are having kind of enhanced ability to do things, but they just need to see the board packet, or they just need to see the budget when it comes out. Give them a board member X at mtnonprofit.org user account within Microsoft. They can log into those credentials, and then they have much easier access to view what they need to view and do basic amounts of work within your environment, within your organization. But know that you can get up to 10 free premium, all the bells and whistles licenses from Microsoft. To access these for Google, go to google.com/nonprofits. For Microsoft, go to microsoft.com/nonprofit. And you can follow the steps to register as a nonprofit and then get this enhanced or this discounted, severely discounted pricing on the solutions that they have. We're going to keep moving, but I wonder if there's any questions about Google and Microsoft stuff, and just again, this seems overly simplistic, and we came to talk about cloud. What is the cloud? And I just said get Microsoft Office or go to Google, but it's the reality. I mean, they have all the products that you need to do your work and to collaborate with one another and to do it in a cloud-based way where you can view anything from anywhere and send anything to anybody, and that's their end game, but they're really good at it. So any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Krista expanded her question about Microsoft Channel to using webinars. So using Microsoft Teams for webinars for external users instead of GoToWebinar. And I think it's the same answer, which is in theory, you should be able to host external guests in Teams videos, but in practice, it's often, what are they logged in? Can they join? Google Meets is easier to host external users if they're using Chrome as a browser. We still often use Zoom. Like this meeting is now through EPEDC. We'll do the same thing. We'll rely on Zoom for external meetings as opposed to Teams.
Yep. I think, their access for external users is probably a little bit easier for video calls, as long as they have the link to the call, just like a Zoom meeting, but there's still probably some clunkiness to it. All right, so one of the major questions that folks have when I think about cloud computing and having things in the cloud is it secure? And I addressed that earlier, that you're using Microsoft and Google and the best that they have as far as security. They have a very high level of interest in making sure that your stuff is secure, because they're going to hemorrhage users if it's not. But there are some things that you can do to enhance security if you are living in one of these environments in a cloud environment. Some things that you can do. And I want you to think about this as sort of layered security. So there's not one thing you can do, and not all of these things might be necessary, but these are some things to think about. And there's redundancies we're building in. I want you to consider this. The analogy would be, we drive a car, and there are some things that we do to make sure we're safe in a car. So one, we make sure it's properly maintained and that it has fuel, and that that we take it to the shop, that we follow the rules of the road. But in addition, we always buckle our seatbelt, and we always make sure that our car has 30 airbags that protect us from anything that may happen. And in addition to that, we also have insurance if we get into an accident. So there's layered security, there's layered protection that protect us in case certain things happen. Similar with your car security, with your computer security. And these are some guidelines on building layered security and redundancies in your system. One is know your team. So you will want to appoint one person who's your admin for your Microsoft account or your Google account that is able to turn on and turn off users within your environment. This may be just your employees, it may be your employees in your board, it may be certain volunteers, but you want to know everyone who has a license, an active license, and you want to be able to deactivate, turn off, delete those licenses and users when that's appropriate. When their term on the board ends, when their term as a volunteer ends, when their term as an employee ends, you want to be able to turn those off. So know your users and keep that current. Number two, and this is a big one, is both of these solutions have the ability to turn on what's called multi-factor authentication. Big word, big set of words. And what this means, you're probably all familiar with it now, where you go to log into something, you put in your username, you put in your password, and it says, okay, we recognize that this is you, but to make sure it's you, we're sending a code to your cell phone. And so they send a 6-digit code, you type that code in, and then you're in. So multi-factor authentication means we want to confirm your identity by at least 2 factors. So one is your username and password. The other is a cell phone or another email address or a token or a biometric. You put in your fingerprint or whatever it might be. There's an additional step that forces you to confirm your identity before you're able to log in. That is incredibly important in today's day and age with security. We have seen at M&A, as I'm the admin for our security, for our Microsoft account, we have seen where we have been hacked, where someone has gotten into our account, and I can see on the back end where someone tried to log in from San Diego, California, and they got in, and then they were sent a multi-factor authentication test, and it failed, and then it was done. We didn't have to worry about that. I've also seen where we didn't have multi-factor turned on, and guess what? They got in, and we had to take some steps to kick them out and to fix our situation. So multi-factor, it's probably a quick setting within Google and Microsoft to turn that on, and then they take care of it from there, but make sure that's turned on as a default for any of your users. Don't go phishing. Never click on links or download files from a source you don't know or that you don't trust. So if you don't know who the email is coming from, or you have suspicion that the email isn't actually from that person, don't do what it says, and definitely don't click on files you don't know what they are, or if you could trust those. Well, our next slide has an example of a couple of phishing scams that we see here often at M&A. Protect your passwords. So store your important information, your important passwords in a safe location. This may look like even a piece of paper that has all your passwords for certain things that's stored in a locked box in your office. Or if you have shared passwords need to be shared within the organization, make sure they're shared in a place where someone can't gain access to all those easily. So they're not electronic in the same computer that you're trying to log into everything on. Consider using a password manager. So there's a ton of programs out there. They all kind of function the same way, that allow you to put in all of your usernames and passwords into one place. And as long as you remember the password to get into the password manager, you have access to all those passwords, and those are very secure. They're built to be very secure. There are some examples of password keepers, password managers here. Keeper, Dashlane, 1Password, LastPass, Bitwarden. These are programs that are designed to keep your passwords secure. So you don't have to remember all of them. You don't have to write them all down. They're there and they're secured for you. Stay up to date on your security or on your updates for your programming. I mentioned that Microsoft and Google will always update your software to be the best and brightest. That has some to do with features. The vast majority of the updates that they push out to their users are for security. So make sure if Microsoft is saying, we have an update for you, that you're keeping your stuff updated, because it probably has to do with the latest and greatest security threat that they're seeing. Add extra protection. So even though you've got protection from Microsoft and Google, it doesn't hurt, again, layered security, redundant security, to have those extra antivirus, anti-malware, malware protection kinds of programs like Norton or a McAfee or a Bitdefender or a Malwarebytes. This is an additional program that you're buying, you're downloading your computer, that provides endpoint protection, meaning protection for your device in the event that you were to download something that was harmful, or something got in your computer that wasn't good. It's gonna do the old antivirus scan and find it, and that whole system hasn't gone away with cloud-based computing. It's still helpful, from a layered protection strategy. And lastly, if you handle significant amounts of sensitive information about clients or donors or members or community members that you want to make sure is kept safe and sacrosanct, and that that could create bad ramifications for you if it was hacked and put into someone else's hands, consider cybersecurity insurance. It's not that expensive. It's depending on the size of your budget, the size of your organization, and the amount of risk that you have. You're probably looking at $1,000 to $3,000 a year for that. So it's not inexpensive, but it's also not break the bank expensive. But that covers you in the event of a breach. So in the event that something major were to happen and your organization gave up personally identifiable information or sensitive information about the public, not just your employees, but 5,000 community members, or if you're a health system, it's health information, that kind of stuff. They step in and they help you mitigate and monitor and do the forensic audit to make sure to find out what happened and when, what your exposure level was, and add that protection, and then also pay out if there are actual financial damages that occurred from that. So again, just like car insurance, this is our layered approach, our redundant approach. It may not be necessary, just like having comprehensive car insurance on my old beater isn't necessary, but sometimes it is. So consider it if you handle large amounts of sensitive information and you're worried about that. It's a good practice to have cybersecurity insurance.
Adam, what additional malware software do we use here at M&A?
Malwarebytes. Yep. There's probably, I know there's research out there on which product is best. I think they all provide a base level of information. They're all going to scan for the most common types of security threats and quarantine those and scrub them from your computer. So Malwarebytes is the cheapest. It's probably why we use it. But they're all, I think, pretty good. All right, so here's two examples of phishing scams that we have seen here at M&A, and I want to bring this to your attention just so you see. You're probably used to seeing these. This day and age, this is one of the sureties of life. That there's nothing. The only thing that we can be assured of is death, taxes, and someone trying to scam your email. So the first one is a phishing scam that we received. We get these often. It's an email from Liz, from our boss. That says, confirm your availability. Need you to run a quick request. Get back to me as soon as you can. Thanks, Liz. All right. We may jump at this and say, oh, what does Liz need? It looks like she's typing this from her cell phones. It must be important. We've come to learn that these are phishing scams. One of the main ways that we can see this is a scam. Actually, I'll test you guys. How would you know that this is not a legitimate email coming from my boss, Shelby's boss, Liz Moore?
The email address.
The email address, right? We have Elmore at mtnonprofit.org is her email address, and this is coming from executive director 802@gmail.com. We get these all the time, and they all have different email addresses, but it's easy for a scammer to go to your website and say, oh, the executive director is Liz Moore. Oh, I know the rest of the staff name. Oh, I know what their email addresses look like. I'm just going to send this out into the universe and see what happens, see what comes back. So we get these often. Check not just the name, but the actual email address. Is this coming from her actual email, or is it just looking like it's coming from her email? This other one was a little more malicious. So this was it came from, I scrubbed the name of the person, and I scrubbed the name down here, but this came from their actual email address that says pending invoice, and it came from the legitimate email from one of our members, from their actual email address, with this attachment right here. It says mtnonprofit.org invoice. This looks real, right? Our initial thought except for the good morning, maybe that should have been the first clue. Good is spelled wrong, but this looks legitimate and seemingly could be. So these are some, they go around our office and we'll say, hey, this looks legitimate. Is someone expecting an invoice from this person? Is there a chance that this is real? So before any of us click that download file, this attachment, and download this, just to see what it is, because we're curious, we ask each other, could we possibly be getting an invoice from this person? In this case, we said no. We don't think this is legitimate, and we didn't click on it. But this was an attack. This was a phishing scam. Someone sent this to us to try to get access to our system. So a couple steps to take: check the email address, check whether you're expecting something like this from this person. If you're not, or if someone else from your team, your organization is not, let it go. Or follow, instead of clicking that link, reply to the email saying, hey, just checking to make sure, is this legitimate? Are you actually sending me an invoice? And they'll most likely say, no, I wasn't, I was hacked, stay away. Questions about phishing, security? Last thing that I want to leave us with tonight, there's some questions about when we enter into an environment like Microsoft or Google, we want to get out of having an email that says adamjesperson@gmail.com or ajesperson@outlook.com. We want to have something that is more professional from a business perspective. So what are best practices in setting up your emails for your organization and for the employees within your organization? Your email address is the thing that has your name, then the @ and then either the domain of the carrier that you do your email with or the domain of your website. Number one, if possible, if at all possible, if you have a website out there or if you have something that you can use that, the name of your organization, whatever it might be, use that as a domain. When you create an account within Google or Microsoft, you have the ability to create professionally branded email addresses that don't say gmail.com or outlook.com. They have your domain or the domain you select. If you have a website, absolutely use the URL. You learned about that in week 1. Use the URL from your website. Ours is mtnonprofit.org. That signals legitimacy. You're a lot more likely to respond to a business email from ajesperson@mtnonprofit.org than you are from, lefty13@gmail, whatever it might be. So it signals legitimacy, professionalism, and serves as a marketing tool. They know you have a website. They're likely to go to that website now because they see that domain name. Number 2, keep it standard. So have an email naming practice within your organization that says any new user is going to have an email that matches this standard. The most common 3 are, the most popular is that your first name, Adam, and then your domain, mtnonprofit.org, adam@mtnonprofit.org. Just a first name is considered a best practice. This is the most popular way. Number 1, because it's easy. Number 2, it's still professional while still being friendly and creating some sense of camaraderie and trust that this is a legitimate person. Third, it doesn't reveal a lot of information about the sender. So if you're publishing your email address into the internet or into the world, you don't necessarily want your full name and where you work by having that in your email. You just maybe want your first name plus the organization you're with. It leaves a little bit of fact finding that a hacker is going to have to go to get your full name. Second most popular after that is first name plus the first initial of your last name. So if you have multiple Adams that work for your organization, you can't have Adam at whatever. You've got to have an additional something, which in this case is probably the first initial of your last name. So it'll be Adam J at mtnonprofit.org. Nice thing about that is it still protects your last name. So you're not giving up a full name. The third way then, and this is what we have at M&A, is the first initial of your first name and then your last name, ajesperson@mtnonprofit.org. It's pretty hard to duplicate that. So if there's probably a lot of folks that have my last name and my first initial. So it's easy for creating unique email addresses. So you don't have to worry about duplication, and still protects your name somewhat, but it does give out some of that information. Excuse me, which may be why we have some phishing scams, just because we have first initial and last name at our domain. Third best practice is to use an actual name. So if you have 10 employees in your organization and they all have different roles, it is best practice to use an email that has the actual name for your organization, for your domain. One that helps you avoid spam filters. If you're sending out emails that say from the director at mtnonprofit.org, because it's not personalized and unique, it's much more likely to get picked up by a spam filter as junk mail. So having a name helps with that. It also builds trust and camaraderie and professionalism to the audience you're sending it to. Having a purpose-directed address like help@mtnonprofit.org or info@mtnonprofit.org is considered a best practice if that email address is shared by more than one person. So if you have multiple people that monitor that email address and respond, or people that take shifts with that, or if it's the thing that's posted on your website, it's best practice to have a more generic, purpose-driven type of email address, not one that's directed towards you as a person. So that's where we have info at, help at, contact at. If it's shared by more than one person and if it's posted on your website, that's considered best practice. Otherwise, you use your name and use either first name, last initial, first initial, and last name. Last note, tie a bow on this. Cloud computing is intuitive, it's efficient, it's affordable or free, and it's not going away. So if you're not in the game now, take the step. It's easy enough. Reach out and find those websites, just get started. You're already doing this work. You're already using Word and Excel and Outlook and Gmail. Do it in this environment. It's gonna make things much more easy as you work with the folks you work with. I said I was gonna end early, I didn't.
Ended right on time.
Right.
Perfect timing.
Right.
2 minutes to spare, Adam.
Questions, happy to take them. You're still with us, Verna, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions?
Are we going to be getting a copy of the, like I would guess I would call them handouts, but they're not handouts on here, they're displays or whatever?
Oh, this
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay, and that's going to come through the email?
Yep. We can send those out. Once we get done with all the sessions, I will work on getting them out to everyone.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, with no questions, I guess we can call it an evening then.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hopping on. Thank you, Adam and Shelby.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
All nice to see you again and hear your voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.